What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and I'm pleased to be joined by writer and director Henry K. Hwang to discuss his new dystopian short film, Certain Thomas, making its premiere at the Oscar qualifying HollyShorts Film Festival. Set in a society governed entirely by algorithmic systems, Certain Thomas follows a young analyst whose unwavering faith in technological certainty begins to unravel when systems logic collides with his own conscience. Henry, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So, prior to this, you've made several other short films, but Certain Thomas feels especially timely. Where did the original idea come from, and what made you feel this was the right story to tell right now?
Yeah, for sure. I think the idea really originated from this because I've always been fascinated by the topic of progress, and I think we as a society have this strong obsession towards progress, and thanks to that, we were able to be where we're at. We have smartphones, laptops, and all that, and but however, at the same time, if you look at the history, progress also means the death of something. It makes things obsolete as well. And right now, that's happening at an exponential speed with automated systems and also algorithms. And and I think this is more of like a worry because although progress is good, this amount of speed of changes might actually mean something that could be more dehumanizing. And of course, I'm for progress, but at the same time, I think it's something because nowadays technology with AI is so powerful that I felt like I wanted to make a movie that talks about the cost of progress, perhaps the more of a dangerous side of the progress. And yeah, I think that's where the idea originated. And then the next that led to this creation of this world where the United States has been replaced by this algorithmic totalitarian regime where everything is basically regulated by very, very advanced algorithm. Yeah.
And it's disturbing because it's not so much about AI, and that's already enough of a controversial topic, but this is just like we're just going to stop questioning the systems around us and go with them, and it's a little scary. I'm not going to lie. And I have to say, in carrying it, Leon Schwendener, who plays Thomas K, he carries this remarkable emotional journey over a very short period of time. So, what drew you to him for the role of Thomas? How did you two collaborate to chart these shifts in his beliefs and to go on this journey?
Yeah, actually, yeah, great question because I knew that the casting of Thomas is so important because to me, what's most important about this movie was that we shouldn't cast a hero. We shouldn't cast a bad man necessarily. We should cast someone who's very normal, someone who we can really relate to and really feel for, but at the same time, commit perhaps the most sinful thing a human being can commit towards the end, and to make that arc very heartbreaking and something that we not just a villain story, but rather a normal, ordinary man story. Like I knew that I had to get someone who had the vulnerability and that kind of likability as well. Because Leon is a very funny guy, a very, very, very nice guy, and I knew that if we had a character like him, where you kind of see him for him, and seeing that character go through this journey would make people actually relate to him because the idea of Thomas was that he's an archetype, a very ordinary archetype, like an everyday man archetype, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And in addition to that, I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about some of the design elements. Like the production design immediately establishes this world before anyone says anything. So I'd love to hear about collaborating with Martina Galata and Grace Muser to create a society that feels both futuristic and strangely historical and familiar.
Yeah, I mean, you put it greatly because that was certainly our our goal because what's happening here, what's depicting here, sure it can be about the future and now, but also it has always been happening because the main idea that we were greatly influenced by was actually Hannah Arendt's Banality of Evil, and essentially that's about how ordinary people conform to do something very horrendous once that's like the new trend, once society gives its consent. And in order to make it more of a timeless thing, because if you ask me, I don't think it's just about now. I think it's something that has always been happening because people always want to, there's that statement, fear of FOMO, right? Fear
Right.
of missing out. And that's certainly a very sociological and very universal theme that has always been there since the dawn of society. And that's why we wanted to create a world that feels like past, but at the same time the future. And that's why I think you see, references or similar visuals of Soviet Union or the Nazi regime or other totalitarian regime. But at the same time, it feels pretty futuristic. And I think Martina and Grace did a fantastic job executing that. So that's one of the things that we really focused on. And yeah, I think they did a fantastic job. They're super talented production designers.
And the costumes also really reinforce that sense of conformity, those uniforms. How did those visual choices evolve alongside with the costume design by Caitlin Kim?
Yeah, yeah. Caitlin is such a fantastic costume designer. She's from FIT. I mean, recently she transferred to NYU, and when I talked to her, like kind of similar to what I said about production design. Like I wanted to feel something that feels a little familiar, in that it looks like certain totalitarian regime costume from the past, but at the
Uh,
same time have some sort of modern touch to it. And I think she did a great job.
and also the one other piece, Christopher Armstrong's score does an excellent job really building the tension while never overwhelming the quieter moments. What were your conversations like with him as you were trying to identify the musical identity of the film?
Absolutely. Yeah, like when it comes to that, I just wanted a sound that sounded kind of otherworldly and kind of eerie, and you just don't understand what it is. Like from the beginning of the film, like you hear this weird like screaming sound, or like we don't even know what kind of sound it is. And to me, that's how algorithm feels like, because at certain points, algorithm will definitely are definitely smarter than us, and we're not quite sure what it's thinking, and it's beyond our understanding. And having that kind of unfamiliar sound, actually kind of, I feel like, depicts that, because at the end of the day, there's no villain really. Technically, there's no people among the people. Like none of them are actually like innately evil. Even the certain character, his general, who we thought were pretty, evil, is actually not. He's also a victim, and I feel like the real victim is the algorithm in this world, and therefore, to depict that, I felt like the music had to carry that. Like
Yeah.
to me, that sound is the villain. We never see it, but it's always around them,
Yeah.
and to me, that's why music is like a character on itself.
And
Yeah.
without spoiling too much, 'cause I don't want to give it away, but the film imagines a future where even small comforts and personal freedoms have just quietly disappeared. So as you were crafting the story, how did you determine where to draw that line between like believable speculation and just full on dystopian fiction?
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to that, first of all, when I actually directed it, I wanted to film like a realistic drama. That's why we see a lot of handhelds, because when we think about dystopian drama, usually it's like it has its own style and it feels like a genre. But at least the way I shoot it, I just wanted to feel very human and very like ordinary. And in order to really capture that, I think what was important is that treat this whole narrative not so much as a sci-fi, but as something that's happening now, and something that feels more real and authentic.
And so, short films often ask filmmakers to introduce a world with remarkable efficiency, but I noticed going to be developed into a feature. So, how does having more time change the kind of stories, or what kind of stories are you excited to tell within this universe that you've built?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question, because like we only had like 18 minutes to tell the story, which was very limited because it's a big world. And as I was writing the feature script, like I definitely had more time in building the world, and I think there are a lot of questions when you watch this film, which will be answered in feature. And because I have that much amount of time, I felt like feature really goes even deeper into, because to me this is a dissection about how an ordinary man can conform to something that he knows is wrong and yet has to do it because that's the new trend, that's the new societal norm. And in order to do that, I feel like audience should understand more about the world and why they would actually conform. And in this film, it certainly depicts that. But I think in the feature film, it goes way more in depth, and you learn way more about the history, how this world became around, how this political party that eventually became a totalitarian regime, algorithmic totalitarian regime, won. And yeah, I think that there was just so much more time to unravel those things. So yeah, I think once feature comes out in the future, I think a lot of the questions that people had after watching this third film will be answered. Yeah.
As you look back on making Certain Thomas, what is one best practice that you picked up that you look forward to carrying into either the feature or your next project? And also on the other side, was there a learning curve that happened that changed the way you'll approach filmmaking moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, at least for me, like, it all starts with the script, and actually, I get a lot of ideas through reading, and like, I'm a big fan of like novels and like history, like historical nonfiction books, and like, and at least to me, like, once I have an idea clear, like filmmaking comes pretty easy afterwards. But that's the hard part. Once getting the idea or vision clear, like how do I want it to look? So more than the technical side, because you can hire a great DP, and you just have to communicate well if you want to get a great visual. So I think as a director, what's important is do you have a clear vision? And at least for me, like learning studying history and reading actually helped me way more than actually like going out and trying to film something with a camera and trying to make it look good. So yeah, I think that's something that definitely helped out. And yeah, I think in the past I made a film that really relied more on the style as opposed to the story or the idea. And I think that really informed my style for this one, because this is a very idea heavy film. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, like style over substance can only go so far. But if you have a great story or a great idea that people might be interested in, hopefully, then that's when the film can really go far. Even though if it's not shot well, because there's a lot of films that, like for example, Celebration, Thomas Vinterberg, it was shot with a like a camcorder, right? And it doesn't look great, but because the story and the characters are so fantastic that you just forget about all that. So yeah, I think that's the learning curve. It's more about the ideas. Yeah.
And one last question before I have to let you go. When audiences leave Certain Thomas, what's one question or idea you hope they'll continue thinking about after the credits roll?
I think the most important thing is definitely about yeah, I think at the end of the day, like there are so many things that we conform as humans and we don't really question. And this also, and nowadays I feel like that has been accelerated or rather amplified because we are so over relying on algorithms or technology. Like, some of my friends gets like dating advice from ChatGPT or Claude, which can be wonderful, of course, but at the same time, like over reliance on this kind of technology can
Right.
backfire in certain sense. I mean, a lot of reasons to that, right? Number one, data can't always be true, but also like you're slowly losing your own voice too on that process if you keep filtering your ideas based on the technology, and therefore you will lose your own individuality. And that's why I think it's important. Although I think AI can be great.
Mhm.
I'm convinced that AI will eventually cure like uncurable diseases like cancer, which is wonderful. So it has great benefits for sure, but at the same time, over reliance can actually replace even our human judgment and human individuality. And so I think that's what is about, like thinking before we actually conform.
Well, Henry, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Certain Thomas will be at the Oscar qualifying HollyShorts Film Festival taking place August 13th through the 23rd in LA. If you're in the area, check it out. We will include information on how to get tickets in the notes below, as well as social media info for the film and the team. As always, if you enjoyed this conversation, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interviews and spoiler free reviews. And check out my website, cinephilemike.com, for more great festival coverage and other cinematic content. I'll see you all next time for the next interview or review. But until then, this is Cinephile Mike reminding you to take a break and watch something new. Henry, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.